I think the music is cut off, so that's our time to start. First and foremost, I want to thank the Healthcare Advocate Summit for allowing us to do this presentation and, kind of talk about what's so special about specialty pharmacy. It's not your ordinary pharmacy. It's not the one that you walk into to get toilet paper and Tylenol. We do some special things, and I think today is what we're going to really kind of clear it up for everybody in here. Our panel today, my name is Phil Goffman. I'm a VP of Provider Experience in 340B at our organization. To my right, I've got Darcy Ratton from Northern California, account executive, day in, day out, with the patient advocacy side. We've got Gil Rosas here from Houston, Texas, from the great big state of Texas, also account executive for our organization. Next to him, we got Chris New from Atlanta, Georgia, account executive. And right at the end there, we've got Robin Wada from Austin, Texas. Yeah, can't mess that up, the Texas people. So we're really excited to kind of talk to you all about that. So I'll just get started right away. This is what we're going to kind of talk about. First and foremost, what is specialty pharmacy? Then we'll go into a little bit about what the patient journey looks like, what the life of a prescription is when it comes into a specialty pharmacy, and specifically into our pharmacy. Then we'll talk about navigating detours and roadblocks, because nothing is ever smooth in our world. And then finally, we'll talk about how a specialty pharmacy should advocate for a patient, and by should is the way that we do it. And then we'll actually go over, open discussion and questions and things like that. So I'll get started, and first things first, what is a specialty pharmacy? I'll hand it over to Darcy, and she'll start there.
Yep. Well, a specialty pharmacy works with high-cost, high-touch medications and therapies for patients that have complex, chronic, and basically rare diseases or conditions. The medications that we work with range from oral medications to cutting-edge injectables, all the way to biologic products. And we look at ourselves as an important part of the whole collaboration team for a patient. So hopefully hopefully our in-depth support and patient management increases patient satisfaction as well as treatment outcomes. And here at Acaria Health, we take this collaboration and we take this advocacy to heart, and we really strive to improve the communities that we serve and improve their health one patient at a time.
Sweet. Now, why don't you tell us what Acaria Health is, specialty pharmacy is?
Okay. So Acaria Health...
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. I'll try to do it without my notes. But Acaria Health was actually started by a liver transplant nurse. Thank you. Acaria Health was started by a liver transplant nurse and one insurance specialist. So it was just the two of them. And through their compassionate care and putting patients first, through the years, they actually grew the company to be a premier national specialty pharmacy. And today we work with probably over 45,000 patients a month, and 98% of those patients report high satisfaction. We communicate with our patients in all sorts of ways. So we, of course, talk to them on the phone, work with them on refills, answer questions for them. But we also have a clinical team that's reaching out to the patients as well. And we also have case management for some disease states. And they're in communication with the patient as well. So this comprehensive communication that we have with our patient actually leads to 90% of the patients achieve optimal adherence. So we work with a lot of disease states. We're experts in a lot of disease states, such as oncology, immunology, rheumatology, dermatology, just to name a few.
Gastroenterology,
just to name a few. And of course, our accreditations are very important to us, and we have many, but we definitely have things like JCO and URAC as well. And so this is the map of our locations. We are headquartered in Orlando, Florida. We have 9 locations throughout the country, and we dispense in all 50 states. So we have 2 centers of excellence. So we have a pulmonology care, our foundation care pharmacy that we work with, as well as hemophilia, and we do also specialize in immunology as well. We also have locations that work with free drug programs as well as bridge programs as well.
I think what's important about this slide is where you see the stars is we actually have feet on the street. So we have actual coverage in those areas. So if that's, demographically in an area where you're located, let's definitely connect, after the presentation.
Throughout the country, we...
Oh, that's you. This is our first time.
Wait a
doing
second.
This.
Throughout the country, we have 35 account executives as we are here, and we have 19 provider experience managers. And we actually, each account executive has a partnered, what we call a PEM, and we are your single points of contact. So you can actually contact us or the PEM directly with any questions that they may have or that you may have. We also, and the PEM we actually work out in the field, and we're in the doctor's offices and in the territory personally, and our PEMs work in the pharmacy, and what they do is they're working with the insurance companies, copay assistance, appeals, and prior authorizations. So we partner, and any one of our accounts can give either one of us a call and reach us directly, and we would help you in any way that we can.
Sweet. Thanks, Darcy.
Thanks, Robin. You're welcome.
Yeah, nice job, Robin, with the microphone. So now let's go into a little bit of what the patient journey looks like, what the life of a prescription is at our pharmacy. It first starts in sort of a data entry place where a prescription is sent to us either via e-script, fax, mailed, call-in, any type of way a physician or a physician's office wants to send it there. That's done in image indexing. After that point, where the pharmacists receive those, they then start the data entry portion of this process. The data entry portion includes entering all the information into our pharmacy system, including insurance information, patient demographic information, diagnosis information, etc. This is where they're verifying whether or not the prescription is valid, whether it has everything that needs to have, and if it's written correctly, and if it's written for the right patient and the right dose and the right drug. After that, it moves to a place called insurance verification, which is probably one of the most important parts to everybody in this room, and to kind of the real patient journey portion is really here. In insurance verification, we do benefit investigation with any insurance that's out there in the country, right? We work with Medicares, Medicaids, any of the Ambetter exchange plans, things like that. We're making the phone calls, and also we do the prior authorizations in this particular step. And that's a collaboration between the patient advocates, the physician offices, anybody that's involved in that patient care collaborates with us in order to get that patient approved, to present the right data, to present the right step edits, to get the right progress note, even if it gets denied, to do an appeal, right? Part of our lives is spent fighting with different insurance companies and trying to get coverage and for patients that need therapies, specifically debilitating therapies. After that's all taken care of, we look at copay assistance, right? We look at if the patient has a high copay, if they need some sort of a co-insurance benefit taken care of. We have a specific team that actually works on that stuff in combination with these folks here and the provider experience team to make sure that the patient gets the right copay, right? That they're not paying exorbitant amounts. After that happens, we move to patient care coordination, where our patient care coordinators pick up the phone, call the patients, deal with them via text, via email, in order to schedule it for the right time where they need it, in the right mode of transport, however it needs to do. Most of the medications we deal with are refrigerated. They need to be shipped fast. They need to be signed for because of the cost of them. So that job is really, really important to making sure the patient gets the medication in a timely manner. After that, once they coordinate the actual delivery, This goes then to our pharmacist team that verifies the prescription again. They want to make sure that really, based on the progress notes, based on the labs, based on the things that we have, that the clinician and the pharmacist and the patient all know that they're getting the right drug. After that, it actually moves to physical picking, right? Physical pharmacy stuff, the stuff that you see at any other pharmacy, in the country. A pharmacist is actually putting pills in a bottle or putting a sticker on a box and making sure that that's the right portion, right? And that's the final pharmacist verification. After that, it ships, right? Finally getting to the patient in a timely manner, hopefully, with all the different steps, right? 8 steps. That's a lot, right?
Phil, it seems a little too good to be true.
I know,
And
right?
honestly, like everyone's sitting in here, does it follow that algorithm usually? What does it look like in some instances, Phil?
We have really fancy colors and a beautiful presentation, but it always doesn't turn out that way. As you all know, you guys are working day in, day out to try to make this process move with every pharmacy, because you don't all use one pharmacy. Everyone's required to use a bunch. So really the objective of a specialty pharmacy is to make sure that this process moves smoothly, but also there's just some detours and some roadblocks and some speed bumps that could potentially come up. And I think what we'll do is we'll just turn it over to the panel and you guys kind of talk about some of those roadblocks and detours that you've seen in the field or you've seen with the offices and how we handle those.
All right, well, first, I'm going to cover prescription clarification, and I will clarify that I had 2 jobs. One was to get on stage, and 2 was to bring my notes, and the notes are in my backpack, so.
You did it, you're on stage.
So prescription clarification is not a hard thing to solve, but it can definitely cause delays for the patients getting that medication. So maybe, the office forgot to put the number of refills, or if it's a specific drug that maybe has like different cycles, like for a lot of oncology drugs, that's stuff that we would basically, need to get a nurse or a provider on the line and get the prescription clarified.
Wait, I have one.
Which?
By a show of hands, how many people in here, your provider sent a prescription and forgot to date it?
It happens all the time.
I mean, that's all they got to do, sign it and date it, right? You do everything else. Yeah, it gets stuck there.
Yeah. So those you can see a few more examples on there, but I mean the biggest one is just missing kind of like minute details, and so that's when we work, with that office directly to try to get that corrected as quickly as possible. Gil?
So then, I think we can all kind of agree though that when it comes to the specialty side of things and getting therapy approved, that insurance becomes the bane of our existence, right? Because we spend so much time trying to build this case to see about even getting this therapy approved that these patients need to live a healthy life, right? Which doesn't seem very fair. But this can very much elongate the process and the approval. And so sometimes things happen where the provider will prescribe a medication that the insurance plan doesn't have on their preferred drug list, right? And they prefer a different type of therapy, different drug in general. Maybe the insurance plan wants to see that the patient has tried and failed a whole list of other medications prior to even starting that therapy. So the patient has to go and try.
I'm here for comedic relief, just so y'all know.
It's working.
Yeah.
The point is, though, that, right, in the prior authorization step, that's where we spend the majority of our time trying to just prove that the patient needs this medication to survive. And that obviously elongates the process, right? And so what happens when we do a PA and it gets denied, right? What's the next step? We have to appeal?
Yep, we have to do an appeal, exactly. So just as Gil mentioned, there's step edits and of course medications that patients haven't tried and failed in order to get on onto the medications. So there's letters of medical necessity that we need to work with. There's appeals. There's even sometimes preparing for internal edit or internal edit, review. Yes, exactly. So
basically,
yeah.
Insurance plans are practicing medicine without a license?
Seems like it.
Possible? Is that legal?
Next one. Financial assistance.
Oh, that's me. Yep, so financial assistance. So now you've got the PA done. If you've had to do appeal, you've done an appeal. And so now you're thinking like smooth sailing. But then you've got to deal with the money side of it. And so, when working and picking a specialty pharmacy, you want to make sure you pick somebody. We prefer Carrier Health, but there's a lot out there that have access to, they work with the manufacturer co-assist or copay assistance
Hold
programs.
up. Who's in here with foundation assistance? Oh, man. I really sold us to him earlier. No? No Healthwell? No? Pan going? Hello? No. All right, never mind.
Yeah, there's several folks here that we
Well,
work
let's just
with.
talk about Healthwell Foundation not having HCV funding right now for our Medicare patients. No?
This is true. I mean, she's going off on a tangent.
Very passionate about patients.
But yeah, to sum it up, I mean, just make sure that you're picking a pharmacy that works with multiple foundations, whether they are, something subsidized by the government. We have access to like a ton of different foundations that are typically based on like certain disease states. But that's, typically a hurdle, but that's what a specialty pharmacy should be doing, is connecting that patient to that assistant. So I know a lot of folks here are working directly with the patient, and so just if you're struggling, getting these medications paid for, or the families are taking a huge financial burden on, make sure, you reach out to an SP like us that, can try to find that assistance. Like, we should be exhausting all opportunities for that patient to not have that financial burden.
Including free drug. And that's one of the things that I have said in all of my offices is we're going to treat your free drug patient the same way we're going to treat your commercially insured patient. And I think at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Well, and so I think that what Robin and Chris are talking about really is just access to care, right? Is making sure that our patients are able to access the therapy that they need, that they were prescribed for their health condition. And so not only are we having to discuss ways for affordability, right? Now it's approved, but can they even afford the copay? Are they even going to have access to nursing, right? I mean, that's a huge thing, right? There's lots of rural areas sometimes where we have to see if our contracted nursing agencies have nurses that are available to go infuse our patients in those territories, right? And it doesn't always happen that way, but our goal is to link that patient to the care that they need. So in the event in which we are able to find nursing available, right, there's things that go into that. So patients that are treatment naive need to learn how to inject themselves for this therapy, right? That's something that has to be taken into consideration. Or even nurse case management, right? What follow-up is being provided for these patients in terms of therapy, adherence, education, things of that nature that are essential, really. It's not just about being prescribed. A lot of patients have a lot of questions, right? And they don't even know what to ask sometimes. And so the nursing aspect is probably one of the most key points of it all. Wouldn't you agree, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, and I would venture to say how many of you deal with specialty pharmacy reps that actually speak regularly with patients. And that's probably not the model for every specialty pharmacy, but I can tell you I have patients on service. I've been with the organization for 18 years. I have a patient, an immunoglobulin patient that we've serviced for 14. So I get Christmas cards and everything else from them. And that's just the relationship that we strive to build. Do I have the time or the capacity to do that with every single patient? No. But my offices all know, and even on my business cards, they know to give these directly to the patients. So, I always would question that too when you're talking with specialty pharmacy reps and they're coming, to you for business. Are you able to talk directly to my patients? If they can't, to me, that's not continuity of care.
What about the roadblocks in patient outreach?
Yeah, I mean, 1-800 number, who wants a telemarketer calling you, or collections? I mean, that, or sometimes, it's like when we call, for whatever reason, my phone shows up as Ambetter. Who wants to talk to the managed Medicaid girl?
Not me.
Yeah, no. So, I mean,
Everything
those are a lot of challenges there, is trying to get a hold of these patients. So, we will go and work and do certified letters that are sent to the patients. There's a lot of outreach that's happened, but that can cause delays too. So you need a pharmacy that's going to work with you, and, they're going to send out the smoke signals, and they're going to do everything they can before they just move on to the next patient.
Darcy, did you?
Nope, that Robin basically
Covers it?
Yeah, Robin basically
Yeah,
said it.
just
but, Yeah, everything can go absolutely smoothly, or we can work on all of those challenges. We have it all wrapped up in a bow and ready to go, and then we can't get a hold of the patient to deliver the medication.
Or
We might not have a telephone number to one of the case managers
Yeah.
or advocates that are helping the patient. It could be that we only have a PO address, or the patient's rural, but we need to send to a regular address in order to get the medication to them. So even once all of that is done, we can still have challenges at the very end. But
Do any of y'all in here work with a homeless patient population? Yeah. So those can be really challenging to get a hold of, but they still deserve continuity of care and to eradicate the virus and whatever the case may be, right? So, we have internal programs that we work with for different outreach to community types of medical offices, as well as even we have like a travel team, that we co with Austin Community Care, that we actually go out into some of the homeless shelters and actually have communication with them. And so it's very involved, but that's a patient population that I feel like a lot of people turn their backs on, but we don't.
Yeah, what I think is important to know is that there are detours and roadblocks in any specialty pharmacy, but what specialty pharmacy does and what is so special about specialty pharmacy is that we help to navigate through these roadblocks and through these, speed bumps and detours. But really, the question I want to ask you all is, how should a specialty pharmacy advocate for patients, right? What should they do?
So, we talked about this a little bit as far as dedicated account executives and provider experience manager. Two of us up on this stage have been on your side of the desk where we have actually been taking care of patients and, having the calls come in and the doctors double booking, triple booking the schedule. You don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the time. The goal is to work as an extension of your practice. And so streamlining that communication process to where you have the direct sell to the rep, the direct work sell to the PIM inside the pharmacy, that is key. We have a dedicated pharmacist extension to where if any prescriptions have to be verified, that you can call in, it goes to an extension, it continues to just roll over until an actual live pharmacist answers it. So you're not going to talk to a customer service representative, it's not going to be an IV, it's going to be a pharmacist that can actually take that verbal order from you right then and there. I think another thing, with the prior authorizations and the appeal, submissions and initiations, I always love when they say, we're going to complete a benefit investigation. What does that really do for me or my patient? No, I need to get into the meat of it, and I need you to get in the trenches and get in with these insurance plans and get this medication approved. So we're not just going to initiate it. No, if you're going to send us those chart notes and those labs, we're going to go ahead and complete that prior authorization for you. We do this all day, every day. We are the experts in this so that we can follow that patient. We're going to follow up with the plan every 24 to 48 hours until that medication is approved. And then if it's not approved, we're going to appeal it. We're going to help you write a letter of medical necessity, and then we're going to follow up on that appeal. And then say the appeal's denied. I could keep going, so you might want to tell me stop. But say the appeal's denied. Then we're going to go and we're going to work with the manufacturer, and we're going to get them free drug. As someone that used to nurse, that's what I'm going to. That's who I'm going to use. And then obviously copay assistance, HealthWell, they kind of stiffed us on this presentation. But nonetheless, we're going to work with the manufacturer programs, and then we're also going to work with the foundation assistance. And even on a local level, I'm in San Antonio as well, and I have ThriveWell there in San Antonio. It's a local foundation that was started by a family, and so we do outreach with them as well.
And I kind of talked on this a little bit earlier about the patient education piece, but we do have, case management programs for certain disease states that are very powerful for our patient populations. Because like I mentioned, patients sometimes don't even know what to ask. What are they supposed to look out for? What symptoms? Are there any drug interactions? Do they have someone they can reach out to for questions or support? And that leads me into talking about our pharmacist availability, which is 24/7. But one thing that I love about our pharmacists is that they are always open to education. They love to answer questions. It doesn't matter if it's even for a patient that we're servicing sometimes. I mean, It's really great and refreshing to have a team that is so patient-centric and cares, because I think what's important is the advocacy part of that all, right? And so that goes hand in hand with the other services that we have, like multilingual services. I mean, of course, we have populations that don't always speak English, but they still deserve care, right? They don't always have a brother or a sister or a daughter or a son to interpret for them on the phone. So being able to properly communicate with them about their therapy is key. And then the in-home infusion. So we don't have infusion suites, but we can coordinate in-home infusion services for our patients. And what we learned actually when COVID hit was that was something very, very popular and beneficial for our patients, because home infusion allows for patients to spend more time at home with their families in the comfort of their own home. They no longer have to go out of their way to go to an infusion suite and spend hours of their day and then go home and be exhausted, right? And so that's something that's so life-changing for a patient that needs this therapy to live. And so being able to work with skilled nursing services that really do care about the patient population that they serve has been really just so life-changing for a lot of our patients in our territories. And so, you know, we've spoken so much about pharmacy and what it is that we are and what we do and how things work, and we can spend all day really talking about any of these things on these slides, but I think what's most impactful is to be able to hear it from someone that works with the carrier firsthand. And so we'd love for you to just take a second to open your hearts up like we did, and to really understand and hear a story from a patient that's very near and dear to my heart. Her name is Rosemary, and kind of get her perspective on Akari Health and the way it's changed her life.
I am a longtime patient. Basically, my whole life has been understanding just and navigating different diagnoses. My journey didn't just start with PI. I have lots of comorbidities, and the year that I got my endometriosis diagnosis, I actually had 6 surgeries in a year and a half. What started off as focusing on one illness, endometriosis, because that was the most painful at the time, to then knowing that something else was off. And I knew at some level I was probably immunocompromised, because when I was in the midst of the roughest year with endometriosis, I was also having all of these other flare-ups and skin issues, like all kinds of things occurring.
A lot of people would be amazed to know that there are so many patients in the world that feel unseen and unheard, and they don't even really know what to ask or what their experience is supposed to be like.
Finally, I made it to an immunologist who believed me, and that's how it led to my PI diagnosis, and then on to infusions, which just changed my life completely. Like, it makes me emotional.
I built a relationship with her provider's office and met those nurses that worked in the office as well, because for me it's really important that I get to know every facet of your healthcare team. I'm going to work as an extension of your provider's office to ensure that you're given the care that you deserve.
I'd never dealt with a specialty pharmacy before. It was quite a battle, frankly, and I'm so grateful to the humans that were supporting me from the Akari Health side in order to be able to get approval for the first infusion that I was on.
At Akari Health, we manage so many complex disease states aside from just allergy and immunology and neurology. When I went to Rosemary, I was blunt and honest with her, and I said, you know, I may not know all the answers for you, but I will find out one way or another, and I'll let you know how I can help. We sort of just built that relationship organically over time as I checked in on her to make sure that things were going smoothly.
There was just such ease in our conversation, and he wanted to know more about me, not just about the approval for the medication and making sure I was covered and all these different things. He truly wanted to be a resource, and Gil is the one who introduced me to, there was a patient conference here in Houston, and it was hosted by the Immune Deficiency Foundation. And that's how I got connected to other patients in my area and to support groups. I'd been infusing for 10 months before I went to that conference, and I didn't realize how lonely I felt until I went to that conference. And I sat there and I'm like surrounded by all these people who experience something similar to me and have similar questions to me.
There was a time where Rosemary's provider and care team, they were wanting to possibly transition her to a different line of therapy that we did not have access to at the time at Carey Health.
I was like, I don't want to leave because of Gil. I don't want to leave because of the connections that I have, because I know if something goes wrong, they will make sure I will still get my medication. And that's a common thing, right, in our world as patients. And so when you have that, you don't want to lose that.
You can go to any pharmacy and say, I need my medication, and they'll do just that, but I can't assure you that they're going to follow up with you or they're going to check in to see how your last infusion went. Building that relationship and having that transparency with your customer, client, friend, whoever it may be, trust is key, and communication is probably the most important ingredient of it all.
Having that human connection makes it so much easier that when those things happen, everyone is wrapping around you to try to get that support and get your medication delivered to you on time.
That was amazing. Gil, amazing work. Just beautiful stuff. Yeah, it's really an honor to work with you and to work with all of you. We really do our hardest day in, day out. I think this panel here has a combined 100 years, which is dinosaur status, is what I call it, in specialty pharmacy. So I think we pride ourselves so much to make sure that every patient has an experience like Rosemary there. So I think that's it for our panel. I want to open it up to any open discussion or questions if anyone's got any. Don't all raise your hand at once. We've got a question. Sweet.
Hi. Oh, that was super.
Hey.
Okay, I put it on the chat, but here we go. As far as your deliveries, we come from Texas, Houston area almost, but we have a lot of patients, near like Beaumont, very areas that it's really hard to reach. Sometimes UPS won't go there, things like that. So how do you guys deal with, because I know she mentioned earlier that you cannot deliver to a P.O. box. So if the patient only has a P.O. box because everybody else will not deliver to them, what do you do in that case?
So with, when you're dealing with FedEx and UPS, it's not something that we necessarily have decided. They can't, these are very expensive medications. Most of them do require signature required, and some of the health plans actually require that, specifically for hepatitis C, at least in the state of Texas. You have to sign for this medication. So it does have to be an actual physical address. So it could be where they work. It could be a family member. It just has to be someone that can actually sign for the package. So we would coordinate it in that capacity. But in some of these, outlying areas, we've never had a situation where we couldn't find someone to deliver. And even in rare instances where we had to get medication out because there was any kind of delay, we have hot shot services that we contract with specifically in the Houston area. And
whether
even
reps that are close to the pharmacy, I've actually delivered many medications myself. So, and we deliver a lot to the doctor's office as well, because sometimes the patient can actually get to the doctor's office. So we coordinate that and work hard for the patient to make sure that they can get their, I don't think we've ever had a case where we couldn't get a patient their medication.
Yeah, and what's important to know is that, a lot of this stuff has to do with refrigerated medications that require specific cold chain management, logistics, and things like that. And obviously, they're very expensive medications. So we try, the utmost hardest to get that information up front. So a patient, when we do schedule that, delivery and we're ready to ship it, that we are almost 100% confident that it'll happen. I know in the state of Texas, there's always a hurricane coming, so
Or an ice storm.
or something, right? Yeah, we have emergency services, logistical services that back up our pharmacies. So like in the state of Texas, we have our pharmacy in Houston. And then if there's a hurricane or something that goes down, there's a pharmacy in Florida that backs it up. There's a pharmacy in Southern California that backs it up. And the movement on that is very seamless and pretty easy, that the patients never miss a dose. Our accuracy rate is particularly high. I think there's a question over there.
Thank you. This has been great. One question. So sometimes when we receive benefit verifications or the BIs or BVs, when they are returned, it will state that the SP is a carrier. But one of our products is not something that you all, ship out to patients. So what are the SPPs or the SPs that you all work with? Because most of the time we see CVS or it could be a Credo. Potentially, could it be more pharmacies than those two? Those seems to be the two that we think might fill it, even though it says Acaria on the BV. I'm sure there's multiple SPs. I just thought I would inquire about that.
So I think what you're referring to is like limited distribution drugs. And so we're going to work with the manufacturer and identify who's the preferred pharmacy within that network. We're going to comply with those, parameters. So we will, identify, even though we are the preferred specialty pharmacy, if it's a drug that we don't have access, then we are going to work with the health plan to determine where they want us to send it and do what we consider as a warm triage, right, a warm transfer. So we're going to send all the information to the actual pharmacy, notify the patient, and notify the doctor's office that it's a drug that we don't have access to.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great question. Right there.
Hopefully, I have two questions. Hopefully, I can ask both.
We'll take it.
But for the first part of your roadmap, if it was a perfect situation, if the provider's office did the prior authorization already, got it approved, and also got funding, sent the prescription to the specialty.
You're amazing.
I mean,
That's what they do.
that's what we do.
That's amazing.
Send it to the specialty pharmacy. You guys do your BI, and then send it to the pharmacist, and then call the patient. What is the timeline from receiving the prescription to patient actually getting it if they pick up the phone?
That's a magical question, right? I mean, it's the question that we get asked most of the time is what the time frame is. And, especially when it's presented the way that you're talking about, which is a small percentage of the prescriptions that we get, everything is clean and things like that. I think our average time is somewhere between 72 hours, something like that, drug in hand. But that's in a perfect world, right? Prescriptions written right, the prior authorization is correct. Even though a benefit investigation is probably already done and a prior auth is already done, some of our accreditations require us to redo that anyway. And most of the time, the health plans will audit us to say, okay, well, if you didn't put this in place, we're not going to pay you in the end, right? So while we trust the work that everyone in this room does, we just have to verify, right? So that takes a little while, and I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I've had actual personal situations where I've had an office because I have a very close communication with my nurses, and they contact me and they're, hey, Robin, we got all this done. This patient needed medication yesterday. And I'm able to work very closely with my PIM, and so they're able to watch imaging. As soon as that script comes in, they pull it. I mean, we've actually gotten it in and gotten it out the same day.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, there are, now that is, those are going to be scenarios where, it's an urgent order and we work together to do that. So,
And that's if we get a hold of the patient right away.
Right.
So that
Yeah,
tends to be sometimes a challenge, which it is. And sometimes,
Yeah.
right.
I think that a lot of people get confused with the having to talk to the patient, right? It's already approved, and maybe the patient has a $0 copay. Why do you got to call the patient? We have to get their approval to process a claim against their insurance. We're not talking about a blood pressure medicine. In some instances, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. So we do have to get their consent for us to process that claim, and then we have to obtain their consent, even if it's going to your office, that we could ship it there. This is their medication, this is their claim, this is through their plan. So those are the reasons why it's pharmacy law that we actually have to do that, in case anyone was asking.
And so I was going to say sometimes there are instances where the drug in particular is weight-based, right? And so that we don't keep those in stock. We have to order those. So that could kind of add to the time frame in which delivery is actually set forth. But I mean, for the most part, we order the medication. It's here like in the next 24, 48 hours, right? And then we can set delivery after that.
Okay.
I work in rural Arizona, and I can attest to 3 to 4 days. Here, I can do it.
From us? Sweet. Thank you. Somebody get her a
Would you like my
tote
help?
bag or something.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah.
I work in rural Arizona, and Sherry, who's not here, is my account manager from Tucson. And so every time we submit a prescription, I do all the case management navigation behind the scenes. I immediately email within an hour of the prescription going out to Sherry and Nicole, our pharmacists in Southern California, and it's in their hands. I also prep the patient. I know what insurances we send to Acaria, and so I prep the patient. You're going to get a phone call from this number, and they're going to verify that, and it's in their hands within 3 to 4 days. To rural Arizona, so it goes from Southern California through Vegas to Arizona.
So then my second question is,
Yeah.
we've never met our Acaria Health rep, so how can we do that for Virginia?
Man, you teed that up beautifully.
Yeah. No, you definitely teed that up. Robin, go ahead.
Where's the girl in the gray jacket with the cards?
Oh.
Laminated cards. So we
Oh,
have,
there. She's got it.
Oh, man, perfect. Okay, so there's a QR code on the back, and that actually will have all of our forms on it, but that has actually all of our contact information as well. And so we are going to be hosting a adult beverage get-together at the exclamation bar after this.
Apostrophe.
Oh,
It's one of those.
It's-
It's something
no,
in
No, it was
grammar.
close. It was close.
It's it's at the very bottom of the escalators. Just go down both
It
of
is
them. It's
punctuation.
kind of right in front of that Peter
we actually
Luge
went down there and
Steakhouse.
confirmed
Peter
it
Luger.
before this, and now we've already, anyway, but yeah, we're going to be down there, so we would love to connect you with where are you located?
Virginia.
Okay, that's Scott Hipple. He's amazing. So
Oh, we're going to talk to him. Don't worry, I'll talk to him.
So
I'm gonna,
let's talk
I'm gonna
about
call
it.
him when we get down off the
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
We could FaceTime him at the bar if you want to.
I mean, do you want me to just take over this job? Okay.
I think she was first
Okay.
and then she'll go next.
Amazing.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
So what is the number of the patient ratio, the ratio from patient to pharmacist?
Ratio of patient to
Like
pharmacist.
caseload, I guess.
Oh, caseload. You know, most of our pharmacists, they're filling pharmacists, right? They're in our distribution centers. We have about, depending on the size of our distribution center, some of them could have about 10 pharmacists. Some of them could have like 3, depending on the volume of that particular distribution. In terms of our clinical team, right? Because there's our distribution side, then there's the PV1 looking at prescriptions, taking phone calls in. That's a group of, I think, 15 people. Then there's the other side of it, which is the clinical side. We have an entire clinical account management team that operates with pharmaceutical companies to provide training for our staff and for our clinical staff. So if I was to say a ratio, because we do quite a bit of patients, right? There's definitely not that many pharmacists. I mean, what would you guys think? That's a really good question. I've never been asked that in my entire life.
42,000 patients a month, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many pharmacists we have.
I mean, I do know, we do. Yeah, pharmacy techs and things like that. I mean, specifically, are you looking for like clinical, like?
Yeah, I guess it would be probably clinical pharmacy specialists, I would imagine.
I mean, I know that the time when you do call in and the pharmacist is available, that time to get a pharmacist on the line is particularly short. So I feel like there is enough pharmacists to handle any type of clinical questions that a physician or any of you would have.
Yeah, that's really why I was asking.
Yeah. And then, I mean, look, and the great thing is we started this with what's special about specialty pharmacy, but what's special about us is the people here, right? The provider experience managers. They're your conduits to connecting you to all those pieces, the clinical pieces, the distribution pieces, and any type of education or anything that you need. This is where I think what makes Acaria Health special, right, is that. I hope that answered your question. Okay, cool.
Am I up? I just want to say that story was beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. And that really shows what kind of human being you are, Gil. And so that was nice. And I just met you yesterday, and you were just the most bubbly person I've ever met in my life. And I
Cheerleader.
completely agree, and I appreciate your humor. So seriously, a question I have is that you had mentioned when the insurance fails, then you have foundations that you partner with that help you with financial assistance and possibly free medications. I assume that includes specialty medications that are super expensive.
That's all we do.
I mean, that's what
That's
you
all
guys-
we do,
That's
yeah.
what you do. So, so how many do you partner with? Can you share any of those names? And
Yeah, absolutely. So
how does that work?
So the stepwise process is we look at a claim, we process the claim, we see what the insurance comes back to us as, if they even have insurance. The first step is obviously to go after pharmaceutical manufacturer funding. If they're not federally funded, right, those patients are eligible for pharmaceutical-based assistance, whether it's free drug or drug at a really discounted price. If that doesn't work out, if they're a Medicare patient or a federally funded patient of some sort, then we go after the Health Well Foundation, the Patient Access Network, things like that that are maybe disease-specific. And you asked for foundations. We always like new foundations as well. If anybody has any, pass those on to us because we're always hungry to find our patients coverage for copays. But mainly those are the two big ones. We've worked with Chronic Disease Fund in the past. Because the specific nature of the medication disease states that we work with, not every fund is available out there for them because of the cost of the medications. And what we found, this is what she said earlier, is that a lot of the funding dries up fast, right? And we just went through about a 1 month period or 2 month period, right, where funding dried up for one of the major disease states for hepatitis C. Luckily, it's back on again, right? And we have some new drugs that are launching in the fatty liver space, right? And that's a huge population of people that is also going to need that type of assistance, and they're more coming to market every day.
And we're always happy to share the foundations that we know.
Yeah.
When we go into the offices, we're very open about who we work with, who we partner with. We're happy to provide that information if it's an office that, because not all the medications are going to be coming to us. Offices are going to have to work with multiple specialty pharmacies. So we look at ourselves as a resource to the office, even if we're not filling that medication. So we're happy to share that.
So we do on a copay assistance collateral piece, we do have all of the foundations that we work with. But like I said, there are some outline ones like, on a local level. So that's something maybe we can talk about too. I can give you a site that you can actually go to because, it's a past cancer, survivor family, and they just decided to help, and they started a foundation. It's called ThriveWell, and it's there in San Antonio. They help Bexar County patients. So, we do not leave any stone unturned.
We have an amazing copay assistant team, and I'm amazed at sometimes the things that they can pull off. And even when there's a window that opens with the medication that we're, like with the hepatitis C, there was a window of sometimes 4 hours. They are working diligently to make sure how many patients can we get funded in that 4 hours. So they're an amazing team.
That's a race.
Yeah.
Before they push us
you.
off the stage, I just want to say for 1 second, thank you all for coming. I know it's late in the
Yes.
day, and thank you all for everything that you do in your office every day. whether you work remotely, whether you work in the office, everyone at this conference is in the trenches, and that is why we love coming to this conference, and we love having the dialogue that we do, because we can share, in our challenges, and we can respect one another, because this is a labor of love, and you all should be rewarded for everything that you do every day for our patient population. So thank y'all.
Hear, hear.
It takes a village, so it takes all of us to work together to take care of these patients, right?
Thank you all.
Awesome, thank you.